Welcome to The Holistic Nurse with your host, Peggy Smith. Peggy will introduce and educate her viewers about the differences between alternative, holistic, and complementary medical therapies. Her goal is to empower the lay medical consumer to learn how to advocate for themselves. So now, please welcome the host of The Holistic Nurse, Peggy Smith.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Holistic Nurse with Peggy Smith. Today, we're going to be welcoming back a favorite host, Dr. Andrea Niestas from Bakersfield, California. And she's going to be sharing her perspective on kindness and why we could all use a little bit more to spread around. Welcome, Andrea. How are you today?
Oh, thank you so much, Peggy. Doing good here.
So, um, yeah, seems to be a shortage of kindness, and we have mottos and bumper stickers that say kindness matters, and
Hmm.
but I think we have so many bumper stickers and signs that sometimes we're just numb to everything and we don't even pay attention anymore. I get
Yes,
excited when I'm at a Wawa and somebody holds the door open for me. Like that's, they still have manners some places.
yes, and actually, I will start there. That is one reason why this whole idea of kindness has become something so prevalent and what I talk about in a lot of my workshops. So, really, the first thing is that, like, my husband and I would notice that you'd go out places, you're going to business, you're giving people your money, and their workers are just not friendly. It's really hard to imagine how someone can go to work and treat customers or the public in the way that they do sometimes. So it was just like a head scratcher, like, what is wrong with people? It really is hard to find good customer service sometimes.
I know
So
I've
that's
gone to Walmart and Walmart, I said, "Can you tell me what aisle something is in?" And one girl said to me one time, "It's in the aisle you found it last time."
wow. Yes, and that's,
Yeah,
that's exactly
and
what I'm talking about.
yeah.
So that was one um that was one thing that really got me thinking about, kindness and how it seems to be lacking quite a bit. So another thing was when I worked at a behavioral health hospital. So seeing individuals come in and their families in really probably one of the worst crises that their family has ever had to go through. So having kindness and compassion for those individuals and just, people that you would talk to on the phone, taking those calls of people in a crisis, I really try to train my staff into, how would you want your mom to be treated or talked to if she were calling a place like this because of something this serious? So really trying to emphasize the kindness towards other people because you don't know what their situation is and what they're going through. Another thing that really kind of got kindness popped into my head is also related to behavioral health. I watched a film called Suicide: The Ripple Effect. Have you seen that one yet, Peggy?
I haven't, no, but I'll definitely look into it.
I recommend that documentary to everyone. And so it's really about an individual who made a suicide attempt and he survived off of the Golden Gate Bridge, which has a very, very
Oh,
low survival rate. So now he's an advocate for mental health and talking about his story to try to inspire other people. So, one of the things that he said in that film was if someone had just said to me that day, "How are you doing? Is there anything that you need?" While he was up on the bridge, someone talked to him, and instead of asking him anything about how he was doing, she said, "Can you take my picture?" Which completely devastated
right.
him. So just realizing you just never know how that little bit of positivity or kindness can help someone. So that's really what got me interested in this whole idea.
Yeah, I did see something, a few months back, probably one of the social media sites where a man was referring to, being overwhelmed and he had a dog, which he that was the only thing keeping him, but he decided that was the day he was gonna make that choice, and he went
Mhm.
to an elderly neighbor, down the hall and said, "I have to go out for a couple hours. I'm not sure when I'll get back. Could you watch my dog?" And it was a one that everybody told you, the old grumpy man that never talked to
Mhm.
anybody and all that. And the man said, "Well, come on in, let's talk." The man just had an instinct for it. And
Mhm.
ended up talking to him. He realized what the situation was, and he said, um, "No, I'm not going to watch your dog, and this is why." And he told him, he says, I recognize it. He was a veteran, who'd seen a lot of things like this, and he said, "I'll help you if you're feeling overwhelmed taking care of your dog right now, but more importantly, you can come here anytime you need to talk." And it's not just because I'm a lonely old man. Um, he said, "Your dog needs you." And they never even mentioned, the S word, but the man just knew that that's why he was there because he'd been there for himself at times in his life.
Mhm.
Um, but
And
most of us are busy and we're rushing to get, and we're angry about the traffic and we're rushing to get here and there. And you find out the people that was giving you the finger in traffic and honking, didn't get to that red light any quicker than you did.
mhm.
And, uh, but it's challenging.
It
And
is,
I think it's
and
the way our society right now has normalized not being kind. Um, it's even more challenging because it even conflicts with our basic upbringing. Many of us that fortunate enough to have a decent, the traditional upbringing that taught us values and things that are harder to access these days. Um, but I love the topic that you chose today. I think it's very appropriate.
yeah, and so as I was talking about this and studying it more and putting workshops together, I really came up with three main things. And one of them is what you were just talking about. So I call
Mhm.
it the kindness effect. And really, it's just sort of three principles. And the first one is just that, like, you don't know what someone is going through. A lot of time, there's these uh, principles in social psychology that when someone does something rude, not nice, whatever the case, we attribute it to them. They're just a mean person. Whereas for us, we attribute it to, oh, I'm just in a bad mood. So it's something
Good point.
external.
Yeah.
So we tend to say it's external for us, someone else pissed me off, and so that's why I'm just not in a good mood. Whereas for other people, we attribute it to them internally, them being not a nice person. But the truth is, we don't know what everyone is going through. And if we were experiencing the same kind of situation as them, who's to say we wouldn't be responding the same way? And we would want people to give us grace and our behavior. So the first thing is just that, like, you just never know what people are going through. And so having that little bit of extra space to be kind to someone, whether it's just simply not responding to them in a way that you would normally want to respond to them. So instead of having that reactivity, your kindness for the day could just be not to respond at all. More kind would be to say, something nice to them. But in the end, kindness could be just not doing anything to respond or to play off of that. So another aspect to the kindness effect that I talk about a lot is that you never know how the smallest thing could really affect someone. It could be really just that smile. And I give the example of how do you know that you're not the only person that this individual is going to run across today that's going to smile at them? Maybe they don't get out of the house much. Maybe this is the first time that they've been out in weeks. And you're the first person to smile at them during this dark time, whatever's going on with them, and you just don't know what kind of effect that can have on someone. And I think about when I'd be at work and I was rushed and busy and stressed, and someone down the hallway just smiled and said hi, and thinking, oh, that was nice, that felt good, and sort of helping those feelings dissipate. You just don't know what that one little thing can do to someone.
I know
And
sometimes we wanna call for customer service, to a company, and you get
yeah.
AI and alerts and everything, and,
Hmm.
I found many times, I want a human, and I'm getting agitated,
Yes.
and and that's when you really appreciate, the lack of humans that we have exposure to nowadays, and um,
Hmm.
but it is much easier to accept that somebody's got a problem than we're having, uh,
Yeah.
a bad
And,
day, or you know,
and really just that human connection can, I mean, building on the last point of you just never know what a small little thing can do for someone, is just having that connection to someone could mean the world to an individual because like we said, there's you really just don't know what's going on with them. And so that little thing could really take them a long way. And so, like Kevin Hines from the documentary says, if someone would have just asked him how he's doing, if someone would have just smiled, if someone would have just said hi, who knows whether he would have done what he had done. Um, but it just takes that little thing. So there's actually science
go
behind
ahead.
kindness. So they do a lot of research on it. And so the research really does show that there are physiological effects that happen in someone who practices kindness. So things like oxytocin, which is the love hormone, so that increases when people practice acts of kindness. Serotonin, which they call the feel good chemical, it triggers dopamine, which is the brain's reward center. So, like when you're playing the slot machines and you win, and you're like, wow, and you get excited,
Yeah.
that's your dopamine. It produces endorphins, which is your body's natural painkiller, and your cortisol decreases, which is your stress hormone. So there are actual physiological changes that happen in your body when people are practicing kindness, and it's all been done by research. And they also show that kindness is contagious. So it is that whole positive ripple effect or domino effect, whatever you want to call it. I actually did a presentation for a business talking about kindness, and someone took the 30-day challenge, which I'll talk about a little bit later. And she said one of the things she noticed was that it wasn't just her doing something kind to the recipient. What she noticed is she was calling like the observer effect. So it was her doing something kind for someone and then someone watching and commenting. And the research has actually shown that when people see kindness or they're a recipient of kindness, that also will have this ripple effect of people wanting to continue to do good because it felt good to be able to see that or receive that. And the research also shows that you, as the giver, actually all of that positive effects and chemicals in your body happens when you're a giver just as much as when you're a receiver. So when someone does something kind for you, that makes you feel good and you get happy. And it literally just is exactly the same when you're the giver and you're doing that for someone else as well.
I think that's where we started with the pay it forward,
Hmm.
concept. And, I know the first time that happened to me, I'm in the drive-through and I get up to the window and says, "Oh, the party in front of you already paid for your order. You don't know anything." And it was like, "Oh my gosh, it's real," and how nice. And I
Yeah.
regretted that I wasn't thinking quick enough to do the same thing for the person behind me. I was so shocked that somebody did that.
Yes.
Um, but
And
so
the other thing that research has shown is that it can be taught. Kindness, practicing kind acts can be taught. So it's just like any other muscle in your body. You're practicing that kindness muscle. You're doing things, you're doing small things, um, and to be able to get to that place where you're helping other people, and all of those positive chemicals are happening in your body.
that's a good part for us to take a break right now, and continue. But I wasn't aware that it actually affects us that way too. That's interesting.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to easysense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's easysense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals.
Welcome back to today's edition of The Holistic Nurse with Peggy Smith. Our guest is Dr. Niestas, and we're having a conversation about why kindness matters and how we can create it.
So we talked a little bit about the science behind kindness. So more specifically, some of the things that we see in people when research studies have actually been done, looking at individuals practicing kindness versus not practicing kindness. So I talked about oxytocin being that love hormone. So some of the things that they found in individuals who were practicing kindness were that oxytocin helps them lower their blood pressure, which in turn helps their aging process lessen. It helps increase their self-esteem and their optimism towards life. That serotonin, which is that feel-good chemical, that helps reduce depression, loneliness. It helps increase those feelings of calm. It actually helps energize people as well. Another thing that it helps do is it helps heal wounds. So physical wounds in the body, it helps with that as well. What those endorphins do, it helps reduce aches and pains. So in the end, it shows that people who practice kindness have reduced pain as well, physically in their body. It helps increase that lifespan as well. And then it creates that feeling of just pleasure and well-being, feeling happier. As I mentioned before, the dopamine effect of that reward system in your brain is the same, whether you're a giver of kindness or whether you're a receiver of kindness. It's the same thing. And just stories that I've heard of people taking that 30-day challenge also say that observers of the kind act also report feeling all of those feelings. So the cortisol helps decrease stress. So the lessened levels of cortisol help decrease that stress in your body. Also help with the immune system, so improving your immune system and not getting as sick. So really, this helps as well, in general, help foster a sense of purpose for people. When you feel like you're able to do something to contribute, to have a meaningful effect on other people, it really just fosters that whole idea that you have a purpose and you're doing something good for the world. And as well, when we're focusing on other people, then we're not focusing on ourselves as much as the negativity in our life. So we're not thinking about the bad things that are happening and this is going on and I'm stressed about this. If you can get away from that, looking inward at the negative. You're looking at other people and being more positive. It's like a distraction. You have less time to think about all the negative things that are going on with you, and instead focusing on what you can do to help other people. So just as far as individuals, those are some of the effects, the positive effects of kindness that actually science has shown and that they've done research on.
That's fascinating, and I would imagine it goes to other areas of it too, because if you're learning to be more mindful of your whole
Mhm.
outlook and approach and what you're feeling and sensations in your own body.
Yeah, and that's really just what's going on with you. Now, if we look at what's going on with other people, how your kindness affects other people, it helps your relationships as well. Because you're really learning to make those connections with other people. So the relationships that you have in place already improve. And again, because you're learning to focus more on others and not necessarily just yourself and what you're going through. And it also helps create that sense of community. So if you're practicing kindness, like say in the workplace, it really helps everyone come together and feel like it's more of a community. And there is a lot of resources that I'll be talking about a little bit later on how to create um, kindness in the workplace and in other groups. And so those are really some of the things that help because again, it leads to that ripple effect. People see it, people like it, people want to do it, and helps that connection between individuals, that sense of belonging. The research has shown that it helps decrease conflict too amongst individuals, hence leading to those better relationships. So it really is just like this, it can turn into this whirlwind spiral effect of goodness. And it really is just
I
those small
find
little.
though, human nature though, isn't it natural to be less likely in our traditional upbringings and all to feel like it's okay to be kind to ourselves? And can you still how does a person learn how to be kind to themselves so that they can actually be kind to other people? Uh, is there anything in the
Well,
research with that?
I was going to talk about that in just a little bit, but I think the thing is if people are having a hard time being kind to themselves, then maybe they should start trying to be kind to other people first. And so again, when you do
So
something for
the
someone, yeah,
ripple effect will help.
when you do something for someone else, you feel good about it. So people start building their confidence, their self-esteem. They start feeling more worthwhile because of the nice things that they've done to other people. And they see the effect that you just gave someone a little something and it makes them feel so good. So then it makes you feel good. You're able to pat yourself on the back. And, it's that whole thing of sociology says, is there ever really any true altruism in the world? Because when you do something for other people, you feel good about it. So it's not just helping other people, it's helping yourself as well. So that's the place to start. You don't necessarily have to do, self care for yourself before you can do it for other people. Just having that effect will help you as well in your self esteem and how you feel about yourself.
I think that's very true. So, do you do seminars, for companies and things also to promote this? Or
Yeah, so I have a workshop that I do just talking about kindness in general, why it's important, some of these things, and like what you can do, how you can practice kindness, which we'll probably get to in the next segment here. But I also have taken this and applied it to specifically what companies are looking for. So there was one company that I did a presentation for who were looking to help their managers. So what can managers learn about being kind and how it can help their team? So really, things that the managers can do is that they need to be the role models and provide, good examples for other people, um, and really just working with them on specific tips to help with that teamwork, with that camaraderie, and how the kindness can help make connections between the managers and the employees so that everybody feels like they're working together and working as a team.
And
So,
that's certainly more productive for the companies.
oh yeah, in the end, again, the research shows that when that happens, productivity is better. People get along better. There's less, what's the word, sick calls, and
Okay.
people leave the company less because they feel like they're valued. They feel like people appreciate them. So yeah, so it's really just that vicious circle of goodness.
Next time you're at the airport, you should leave your card for certain HR departments.
So there was so I do want to talk a little bit about what kindness actually looks like. So kindness is being generous to other people, helping other people, caring for other people. And sometimes people feel like, well, I don't know what to do. I don't have money, and so it's not about money. And I will give some very specific things that people can do that don't cost money, but really looking at um, what are the small things that you can do for people. And I will give you an example of something that happened to me 30 years ago, and I'm still talking about it, and I'm still using it as an example. Um, I was working when I was in graduate school, I was working as a cocktail server. Not a very good one. Not a very good cocktail server. And this specific example, I actually dropped a plate of hot wings on someone's pants.
Oh
So
gosh.
that bright orange, sticky sauce that goes on the hot wings was all over someone's pants. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I offered to dry clean it for them. They said, no, don't worry about it. So I felt completely terrible the rest of the day. And when they were leaving, they were talking about going to McDonald's to get a McFlurry. And I said, oh, that sounds funny. And I never had a McFlurry before. You guys enjoy, blah, blah, blah. 10 minutes later, the little boy runs into the restaurant, gives me a McFlurry, and says, here, because you said you never had one before. And I was
Oh, that
just so shocked. So not only did I do something wrong with them, they're the ones that bought me something so that I felt better about dirtying their clothes. So again, it's just, at the time, those McFlurries probably cost $2. So someone paid $2 and gave a little bit of their time to come back to the restaurant, have them walk in and give it to me. I never saw them again, don't know their names. But again, that little gesture or that one little something is something that I'm still talking about 30 years later. Or
that's
just those small things that you can do to people that you just don't know how much of a good positive impact it's going to have on them.
that's a really neat story, and you know, and it led to. I'm sure it's influenced the way you've dealt with your clients, and over the years, and um, it fits in well with the gratitude philosophies, and all of that.
Oh,
We just don't realize
yeah.
how much a little thing like that makes a difference.
100%. I mean, 100%. And so it's really just kind of thinking outside the box sometimes. You know, um, there was one workshop that I did that someone brought up a great example. She said to her, kindness would be something like when you go to the restroom at a public place and you see the trash can overflowing with paper towels. Nobody wants to touch the paper towels, because you're in a public bathroom, but sometimes just, pushing the paper towels down so that there's more space is really all it takes. And she said, to me, that's something kind, doing something kind to help other people. She says, I do it all the time. Nobody wants to do it, so I do it. And then she just washes her hands afterwards. It doesn't have any major negative impact on her, but it's something nice because now the next person is not throwing paper towel on top of a mound. She got it down to the bottom and there's no mess. There's no mess for the janitors to clean up. The next people feel comfortable because the thing is not overflowing. And it's just a little nice thing that she does. And she's added that to her kindness list of things.
That's really very considerate of her. I've often thought myself, well, where are they don't stay on top of their cleaning, and that's the human nature. We're going to take another brief break, and we'll be right back.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back to The Holistic Nurse with Peggy Smith and Dr. Andrea Niestas, and we're learning all about how to actually live the motto that kindness matters.
So I just want to talk briefly about the difference between kindness and niceness. So being kind versus being nice. So really, some of the big differences are that when you're kind, you're being genuine to someone else, as opposed to just trying to people please. So instead of just agreeing with someone because you want to keep the peace, you just want to be a nice person. Really, kindness is more about um, being fair to other people, being genuine to them. So if you want to give someone a compliment, have it be sincere and not just flattery because you're trying to, get something from them. So there is a difference between being kind to someone and being nice and where it comes from and what your intention is of it. I do want to talk about just briefly what are some of the obstacles of people practicing kindness. So, what are some of the things that get in the way? So, we already talked about one of them. Sometimes we get too busy, too preoccupied thinking about ourselves. And so we don't even notice the opportunities to be kind to other people. So, again, you go into the restroom, you see the paper towels, you're just so busy worried about your own life and what's going on, you honestly don't even notice it. But when you can be, like you said, more mindful and be more present in the moment and notice things around you, then you actually see those opportunities that you can step in and do something nice for someone else. You may not notice that someone is stressed or looking baffled, and but when you do notice, that's when you can say, "Hey, is there something I can do to help you?" Because you're actually paying attention and being mindful of what's around you. Another thing is kind of what you were talking about before, those self judgments. When we have self judgments and negative talk about ourselves, then it is hard to focus on the positivity towards other people. So that is when you do want to take time for that self care, that self compassion, what you can do to feel good about yourself. So then might be much, it might be much easier to be able to do that towards someone else. Um, Also, we might just have some negativity towards other people or towards life. And so we might just assume the negative in other people and not think of doing something for them because you don't have that compassion. And so really a way to avoid that is just to try to think of things from other people's perspective, or try to be in their shoes, and see what they might be going through. And then that will make it easier for you to be able to have some compassion. And so there's the kind versus nice image. And so at the end, I will talk about how people can contact me, and I can give them some of these resources that I have. But it is very important to know the difference between them. And again, it's all about that intention. What is your intention in doing these acts? So I do want to give people some ideas of ways that you can be kind that don't cost a lot of money. So really, it's performing that random act of kindness. So just like you said, you experienced someone paid for your coffee when you went through the drive-through and you weren't expecting that. This is one of the things I do. So I have these, I call them little kindness baggies that I put in my purse. And
Okay.
it is just a little something. Like this one just has a little hand cream. I carry these little motivational cards with little positive
Okay.
on them. And so sometimes I just give these to people who may need kind of a little sunshine in their life, or someone who's been particularly helpful and kind. So we're talking about, we don't always see a lot of good customer service. So when I do, I actually give someone something like this and say thank you for your good customer service, or for being friendly. So volunteering, of course, we know volunteering in the community, giving someone a little small something gift. But some of the things that don't cost money at all is just those nice words to people, like telling someone that you love them when you maybe don't normally do that. Telling someone something nice, like you believe in them. I know you can do this. So even just those small little encouragements. And it could be writing an encouraging note to someone. So someone who's going through a hard time, or someone who helped you do something that they didn't have to, a coworker who helped you finish up a project and took time away from what they were doing. Maybe a little thank you note, instead of saying, oh, thank you for helping out. Maybe that little note is just going to make their day. So that's something quick and easy. Again,
Also,
smiling.
preparing school lunches I used to put notes sometimes in lunch boxes, I'm glad you're having a great day. Well, you don't know if they are or not, but it usually helps
Yeah.
improve the day.
Oh, yeah.
Just remind them that you love them.
Mhm, definitely. And I've seen people do things like put stickies around the office. So putting stickies on their coworkers, computer screens, like you're awesome, things like that. So just that little thing is just such a surprise to people that it really can brighten their day. So again, smiling at a stranger, saying hi, even though they weren't complete strangers. I tell you, I pass people in the hallway at work, and they would just smile, and that sometimes really kind of lifted me out of the crappy mood that I was in. So offering to listen to someone when they have a problem, or they're feeling stressed about something. And another way just to be kind is actually being present when you're talking to someone. So probably most of us have been in conversations with people while we're flipping through our phone, right? Oh, you got a text, you want to see what that is. So being just present in the moment and attending to the conversation at hand is really just a simple example of how you can be kind and compassionate to other people. Also, just learning from other people. So if you're like, well, I don't know what to do, find that kind person. Find the person that you want to be like. Find the person that does the good things that you would like to do, and just watch them. What are they doing? Take ideas just from them, from what you see. So that's just another way to do it. And really just kind of making it a regular part of your day. And so that's why I actually carry the baggies around with me in my purse. So sometimes I go through my purse and open it, and I'm like, oh, wow, I haven't pulled that out in a while. So then I make myself a conscious note that I want to give one away sometime in the next day because I hadn't given one in a while and I had completely forgot about them. So doing something to remind you to keep it in the forefront of your mind is just another way to make it easier. So how much time do we have? Should we talk about the 30-day challenge?
Yeah, let's talk about the 30 challenge. If we have to interrupt for the last break, we can finish it in the last section. That would be great.
Okay. So there's a couple of different websites that I get most of my resources from. So there's one called randomactsofkindness.org. And there's another one that's called Kind30. So KIND and then 30.org. So both of those organizations have really good resources on there. And I use a lot of those resources when I'm doing my presentation. And specifically, they have really good resources when I'm doing kindness in the workplace. So finding things that people can use while they're at work. So both of these have on there 30-day calendars. So like for the whole month of April, it'll be April 1st all the way through the 30th, and it'll give you, literally will give you, this is your act of kindness for the day. So there really is pretty much no excuse if you can't think of anything to do, you don't want to spend any money. This will give you each day something new that you can do. So both of the websites have their own calendars. I've downloaded them. I have them. I can send them to you even. And they also have a pledge. So they actually have a pledge saying, I pledge that I'm going to do a 30-day challenge. And so that's what that individual that I told you made that comment, that it was really affecting not just the person she was doing something kind for, but other people observing. So she did the 30-day challenge and took one positive, kindness deed every day from the calendar, straight from the calendar. So it really takes all the work out of it and makes it real easy. And so again, you have that pledge, you pledge to do it. And there's also blank calendar. So if you would rather do your own, then you can do that as well. You can fill it in with whatever you want. And a lot of the examples are just what we talked about. Smile at someone, tell someone thank you. You go to the grocery store, someone helps you out, just say thank you. So they can be as simple as that.
Yeah, I've been with a customer service agent and, thinking that I should be the one, the way it ended up though, I guess because I was having a difficult problem, she said, honey, I wish I could come through the phone and give you a hug. And I thought, wow, yeah, she's really listening to me and she,
Mhm.
and she had a good solution in a short amount of time. And it made the rest of my day a whole lot better.
Mhm.
And I said, "Well, what was your name again? If there's a survey, I'll make sure I fill it out." And people don't realize too, that's even an act of kindness. We say we don't
Mhm.
have time. They stay at the end of your call to fill out that survey. It means a lot to the employee if people actually do that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um,
Sometimes I actually do even go on the website. So if we go out to dinner and there's a server who's been particularly helpful and nice and attentive, I will either stop at the front before I leave and ask to speak to the manager to tell them, or I'll go on the website, like the corporate website, and
okay.
type in their information there to say how wonderful they were. So yeah, something might take, just 5 minutes of your time, not cost any money at all.
And it means a lot to the recipients for sure.
Oh yeah.
We're going to take our last final break right now, and then we'll come back and make sure everybody knows how to reach you. And, just this has been such a wonderful, necessary show, I think, in these days.
Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Hi, welcome back to the Holistic Nurse with Peggy Smith and Dr. Andrea Niestas. Our conversation today is about how kindness matters, and to remind people that it is another aspect of holistic living because it affects so many areas of our life when we're kind to each other and kind to ourselves. Andrea, what would you like to offer us in this final segment?
So I think if someone is really looking to grow, you start with these small things and just sort of get used to the habit. But really, if you're looking to go deeper, the next step in being kind to people is being kind to people who don't deserve it. It's easy to be kind to people who do deserve it, right? So if you're really looking at taking that next step, is being able to be kind to people who are being rude to you. People who aren't going to appreciate something nice that you're going to do for them. And so again, we look at that as being more about us and not about them. So if you want to really look at that, how you can change the world by changing yourself, that is one thing. And again, you never know how that's going to affect them. They may be mean, nasty, or rude to you, but how do you know that their spouse is not in hospice and they just left the house to go run a quick errand while they're at home with the nurse? Like we just don't know, what's happening. So who's to say that that person really doesn't deserve, a kind act, because we just don't know what's going on with them. So I think that's one thing that's important to remember, that even when you're doing something kind, you want to do it with genuine sincerity and mean it, because they can, they might take it as sarcasm, or you don't really mean it, they're going to know. So really work at, when you're doing something, do it, with that sincerity.
And that we kind of have that joking motto, kill them with kindness. But if you're in a verbal discussion with somebody that, one party is louder than the other, if the receiving party actually responds with softer, quieter, tones, it doesn't escalate. A normal human does back down and, starts to hear themselves, because that's all you can hear when they're yelling,
Exactly.
So
Exactly. And I do want to spend, well, since we're running out of time, I just want to talk briefly as well, that these, the two websites that I gave, the Random Act of Kindness and the Kind 30, they both have a lot of resources as well for kindness in the workplace. So how employees, managers can implement some of these philosophies and some of these techniques in the workplace. And again, how that can help the team. And when it helps the team, it helps the employers. One of them, the Random Acts of Kindness, even has the ability to give someone a workplace a certificate to be a distinguished, I think they call it distinguished kind workplace or something along those lines. So there's a few specific things that have to get done, sent off to the company, and they actually give you a printed certificate saying that you are a distinguished workplace for kindness. So all of those resources are available online. I actually have them all. So there's my information. I have them all and have created specific programs for employers based on what is it that they're looking for. So again, if you're looking to train managers, then I would just adjust the training specifically for what it is the objectives are. So you can reach me there by email. My website is lifecoachingbyandrea.com. So you can find out more of the other things that I do. And then as you see, I'm kind of everywhere on social media. So all of my names on social media are Life Coaching by Andrea, except for in LinkedIn.
Right.
So
So this has really, again, been such a helpful and appropriate topic, to discuss. And if, by doing small things, it has big repercussions. The
yeah,
benefits grow.
and I can tell you also, when I was saying how kindness can be learned, and you just need to practice it. Initially, when I was a manager, there was a joke with me and my boss that when I would do something nice for someone, or I give them a kudos, we call them kudos. You give someone kudos, I would tell him every time I give someone kudos, I die a little bit inside because I felt like, I was really kind of a sarcastic person, and I was like, they're doing their job, you get kudos for doing your job. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. So it can be something that you learn and be trained on, because I essentially trained myself to get into that mentality of they're doing their job, they're doing what they're supposed to do. Why should they get a kudos?
Well,
But
actually, the generation of my parents, that was kind of beat into us, not literally, but it's like
mhm,
what you shouldn't expect to get kudos for doing something you should be doing
yeah, I mean, you're
anyway.
doing what you're supposed
And
to. So, but I was able to, learn from that, because I would do it so that my employees felt appreciated, and they would stay and I wouldn't have to replace them. So initially I did it for selfish reasons, but I did learn the positive effects of it overall.
so that's, you know, there's just so many. Sometimes people get overwhelmed too. It's a lot of work to take care of ourselves, as we've shown in some of these shows. But it's so worth it to be healthy and to be able to rely less on traditional medical resources that sometimes aren't available. This has been really great having you back, Andrea. You remind everybody, please check out her website and the resources she has. Um, and I think maybe we should have you back for a show on balance. I think you'd be good at that. But we'll talk later. But I really welcome. I'm happy you came back today. Stay healthy, and we'll be talking soon.
Okay,
Thanks
thank
for
you so
joining.
much, Heidi.
Bye bye.
This has been The Holistic Nurse with host Peggy Smith. Tune in each week where you're encouraged to send in questions and receive private responses and suggestions if appropriate. Here's Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern.